I'd love for you to let our audience know a little bit about yourself and how you became an expert in this, because you work with psychologists and you've been working for quite a long time in this field, and privately also with clients, and you've written a book on it. So what's your own journey with narcissism?
Well, Regina, I had no idea that I was going to grow up to be a narcissistic global abuse recovery expert. I really didn't. I was very interested in personal development, in self-development for years and years and years, and I was teaching things like mindfulness and meditation. But look, what happened was I'd done a lot of work on myself, or so I thought, and I ended up meeting, and relationships had been problematic, and I met the man who I thought was absolutely my Prince Charming, everything I've been looking for, spiritual, handsome, etc. And to cut a long story short, it just felt so right that I ended up at 35 years of age, my one and only marriage. I married him very, very quickly. And there were massive warning signs, but I didn't want to ruin the dream. So I talked myself out of it, and there were things I'd never seen and I'd never experienced before. And what ended up happening was I was physically, emotionally, spiritually, financially just abused in so many ways, as people are. But what was shocking to me was that I ended up enduring and going through things I never thought I would tolerate. And I would leave, but I was so hooked and so addicted to this man that, and this was stunning to me, that logically and practically I was a very capable person, but yet I was like an addict. And this was just horrifying. So I would break no contact over and over again. I'd get it through my head. And by this stage, it was quite incredible, because I was driving away to a rented place again one time, and this word popped into my head, narcissist. And I thought I'd heard the word, and I thought it was somebody just full of themselves. Anyway, I went home and Googled, and there wasn't a lot out there at that time. I fell off the chair, Regina. I was ticking every box, and I'm like, oh my God, there's a name for this. But, okay, so there's got to be a cure, I'm thinking. And nobody knew of any cure for narcissists, and nobody knew of any cure for people that were abused by narcissists. So I ended up searching out therapists and all sorts of things. And then at one point he was like, I'll do anything to save the marriage, which they can do. And he went to therapy, and she said to me, there's 4 ways that this could go. She said, either he will kill you, you'll kill him trying to defend yourself, you're going to have a terminal illness that could take you out because of the stress, or you're just going to end up having a complete psychotic breakdown and you'll be institutionalized. Yeah. And she said, that's, if you stay, that's it. But I still believed that I could be the person that could cure a narcissist. So, you know, I stayed in there. I tried to change me. I tried to work on my boundaries, etc. Anyway, none of it went well. And I did end up having a complete and utter psychotic breakdown. But when I did, it was an adrenal psychotic breakdown. And then I was told by the medical establishment that I would need 3 antipsychotics for the rest of my life to even function at any level. It would be nowhere near normal. And that I would probably need to be institutionalized, and I would never be the same again. Now, Regina, I'm not even good with aspirin. I'm really not.
Yeah.
Right. So I knew that was game over. So at that point in my life, Regina, I'd already lost 2 properties I'd brought into the relationship off my own steam. I'd lost my reputation everywhere. He had smeared, and everybody believed I was the crazy one and he was the good guy. The police thought I was a stalker. There was just so much. And even my son had turned away from me, my own family. I only had one friend in the whole world. I'd lost everything. And I literally believed that everybody would be better off without me. So I started plotting my own exiting the planet. And I was serious about it, because I thought it was game over. And at that point, I had to take an antipsychotic to stop having these psychotic episodes. And anyway, I'm lying on my bed and I'm thinking of, and I was on suicide watch, and I'm thinking, how do I do this in the kindest way to everybody possible? And this voice in my head said, no, there's another way. And it persisted, and I'm arguing, and I thought it was my madness, and I thought it was the drug. So anyway, I went to my bathroom. I put my hands up, I hit the floor, and I just screamed, help me, because I completely surrendered. There was nothing else to do. This voice, this presence entered me in the most startling clarity of my entire life. And it spoke to me, and it showed me that what was happening was him reflecting back to me what I'd never actually healed. And the way he spoke to me was the way that I spoke to myself. The way that he would scream at me was the incredible conditional love that I did to myself, and so on and so on and so on. And this catapulted me into a vision in the future where I saw and felt myself thriving, free, open cells, empowered, confident, no fear. And I'd never felt that my entire life, Regina. In this vision in the future, and the voice said to me, you can have this if you learn to heal this from the inside out, and we're going to show you if you choose this mission. And they said, you can leave and come back and do this again, or you can stay and you can get this done. And I chose in that moment, my spirit chose, all right, I'm going to sign up to save my soul. And I came back into my emaciated body. I was a walking skeleton. My hair had fallen out in clumps. I shook, I sweated. I looked like I was 120 years old at that point. So I came back into that, and I wasn't healed, but it was just that I had known and felt this wasn't about him, and there was a way out of this. So my mobile, my cell phone, because I was still breaking no contact, I threw it in the bin. It got taken away by the garbage truck, and that started an incredible 18-month journey where the synchronicities would come to me. The next day I went back and I talked my way out of antipsychotics, which was an absolute miracle that they let me do that, because I was a risk to myself and others, and they did. So divine intervention. And anyway, so on and so forth it went. And then I was healing with all sorts of things. I discovered theta healing. All of it was the subconscious stuff that was breaking me through, until it all led to a moment in time where I'd had enough of agoraphobia. I couldn't go out in public. I couldn't go shopping without getting people to do it for me, without feeling like I was going to be annihilated. I'm not safe in life or in my body. And I channeled a way to meet within me the primal terror fears of a collective level, of my childhood, of my past lives, of my adulthood with him, because he'd been very violent. And I was able to find all of those traumas, release them, bring in source to replace them. And within 2 hours, I'd reset myself to feeling that empowered, safe, whole, and expanded in life that I'd never felt. And that was the end of my agoraphobia.
And then you rejoined life basically after. I mean, I'm just listening to it kind of stunned, because first of all, there are people watching this who've been through this, and the other people who haven't been through this think, absolutely, how is it even possible that someone could be hooked in so deeply to something so dysfunctional? I mean, most relationships have some kind of dysfunction, and some are violent. Yes. But what's the difference between kind of garden variety, someone's angry and violent, which is critical enough, and someone who is narcissistic and harming you in these ways? So what are the hallmarks of narcissism? I have a lot of questions for you.
Great question, because of course, all of us can be triggered and act like a baby and not be nice. But but what happens with a person with a conscience who's not a narcissist is they're sorry for that. They take responsibility for that, and they realize that they don't want to destroy relationships around them and have them run with I'm superior, you're inferior. But what narcissists do, and the hallmark is they don't take durable responsibility. So if you get a sorry or if you get a promise of amends, it's usually when you're walking out the door, or it's out of 5 weeks of arguments and they finally capitulate. So they would rather be right than happy. And they're not interested
That's a big one.
It's really big. And they don't validate your feelings. So if you go to a narcissist and you say, well, you know, you hit me or you yelled at me or you did something really selfish or nasty, well, it's all about them and they're the victim. They'll blame you for their behavior, even if the behavior is atrocious.
If you enjoyed this video, be sure to subscribe to my YouTube channel. And you might also want to consider joining Patreon, which allows me to keep all of this content free and available to everyone. And if you're looking for like-minded souls, you might also enjoy my online community called Our Neighborhood. Links to join are in the description.